construction error that gave birth to one of the most renowned landmarks in the world to a tragic building collapse in China. Here are 5 construction projects that did not proceed as intended. We'll begin with the 5th one, the Lotus Riverside Complex. China is renowned for its remarkably rapid, efficient, and record-breaking construction endeavors. As the world's most populous nation, it faces an unceasing demand for housing and infrastructure. In 2021 alone, China managed to construct over 6 million residential properties, solidifying its status as the world's largest and most advanced construction and real estate sector. However, owing to its sheer scale and ambition, together with tight timetables and profit margins, China's construction industry is also known for sometimes compromising quality in pursuit of quick returns on investment. These compromises can, at times, lead to costly and catastrophic consequences. One such incident that served as a wake-up call was the complete collapse of an apartment building at the Lotus Riverside Complex in Shanghai. On the morning of June 27, 2009, the city of Shanghai was startled by the deafening noise of a 13-story apartment block collapsing to the ground. The newly built structure fell on its side, narrowly missing neighboring buildings. Tragically, one worker who happened to be inside the building collecting his tools during the collapse lost his life. Initial investigations into the incident suggested that an ongoing excavation for an underground garage in the building might have triggered the structure's tip-in. According to the report, the building's foundations were compromised due to the excavation. Consequently, the dugout soil caused the nearby riverbank to collapse, permitting water to mix with the ground. Ultimately, the soil became muddy and unstable, leading to the building's collapse. Beyond the compromised foundations, the investigation also unveiled a significant issue with the industry. The company responsible for the project had already been warned about potential dangers before the incident occurred. A representative from the overseeing company lamented that the repeated warnings about the unstable soil had been consistently ignored by the construction company. Surprisingly, it was later revealed that the overseeing company had been hired by the construction firm itself to supervise the project. This meant that any concerns raised would be funneled through the very construction firm that employed them, creating a conflict of interest. The construction company had the authority to delay or reduce the fees of the overseeing company if they reported issues to the local authority's quality control department. In the aftermath of the building's collapse, 9 key individuals from Shanghai Zhongxin Construction were detained for further investigation. Additionally, many of the property buyers demanded refunds or compensation from the developer following the incident. Moving on to the 4th project, the Intempo skyscraper. Standing at a height of over 200 meters with 47 floors, the skyscraper in Benidorm, Spain holds the distinction of being the tallest residential building in the European Union. After securing a 92 million euro loan from the Spanish savings bank Caixa Galicia with a 3-year completion timeline in mind. However, merely a year after the project commenced, the 2008 global financial crisis severely impeded progress. Construction came to a sudden halt as the responsible construction company went bankrupt. The skyscraper garnered significant media attention when a rumor spread that no elevators were planned for the construction. A Spanish newspaper published the story, which quickly circulated in other media outlets. Sales manager Rafael Ballesta refuted the claim, stating, quote, "We are constructing the highest residential skyscraper in Europe, so how is it possible to build without elevators?" While the elevator rumor proved false, not everything proceeded as intended in this project. In 2010, a new company took over the construction, but workers went without pay for 4 months and threatened to strike due to salary issues. An on-site elevator for workers crashed while 13 people were inside, though the emergency brakes prevented a tragedy and only 2 workers required hospitalization. Additionally, Spain's real estate market showed signs of recovery after the financial crisis, raising hopes for the completion of Intempo, now slated for early 2014. However, just a year before the new completion date, the project's architects unexpectedly resigned, refusing to disclose the reasons to the media. 1 year later, the project's owner filed for bankruptcy, leading to speculation that the architects departed due to financial issues related to the development. Intempo faced further delays. Finally, in 2017, a Connecticut-based company called SVP Global assumed control of the project and successfully turned it around. With a €60 million investment, the company managed to complete the project, even overcoming the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. 15 years after the inception of construction on Intempo, and after changing ownership and facing financial woes, the skyscraper finally opened its doors in 2021. Moving on to the third project, the Berlin Aquadome. Situated within the Radisson Collection Hotel in the heart of the German capital, the Aquadome stood as the world's largest cylindrical aquarium, measuring 25 meters in height and holding 1 million liters of water. It was a prominent feature of the hotel, showcasing over 1,500 individual tropical fish from 100 different species. The aquarium even featured a transparent elevator shaft that allowed hotel guests to observe the swimming fish up close. Maintaining such a massive aquarium within a hotel required regular cleaning and upkeep to ensure the safety of the fish, hotel guests, and onlookers. However, on the morning of December 16, 2022, the entire aquarium unexpectedly ruptured, releasing 1 million liters of seawater into the hotel lobby and eventually flooding the streets outside. The sudden deluge caused extensive damage to the hotel's interior and completely destroyed the building's entrance. The force of the water was so powerful that local seismographs recorded shockwaves generated by the collapse. Fortunately, the incident occurred early in the morning with few people in the vicinity, resulting in only 2 injuries that required hospitalization. Authorities believe that if it had happened during peak hours, the collapse could have been much more disastrous. Investigations into the probable cause of the incident suggest that material fatigue is the most likely reason for the aquarium's collapse. According to experts, the significant temperature difference between the warm water inside the aquarium and the freezing cold air outside on the night before the incident may have caused the acrylic panels of the aquarium to weaken and ultimately rupture. Moving on to number 2, the Tower of Pisa. This UNESCO World Heritage Site, attracting over 6 million visitors annually, is one of Italy's most iconic landmarks. Surprisingly, the Leaning Tower of Pisa is a product of construction imperfection. The tower was originally built in the 13th century as a freestanding bell tower for the Pisa Cathedral. Its distinctive 4-degree lean can be traced back to the very beginning of its construction in 1173, when the tower started to sink on one side during the construction of the second floor. Because the tower was constructed on unstable and loose subsoil with only a 3-meter deep foundation, it gradually started leaning as the ground could not support its weight. So, why hasn't the tower collapsed over the years, and how has it remained in this position? According to one account, the tower's survival can be attributed to a significant pause in construction due to conflicts with neighboring countries involving the Republic of Genoa. During this construction hiatus, the underlying soil had ample time to settle and harden over the years. In the subsequent decades, the tower's tilt continued to worsen as it was eventually completed almost 2 centuries after the construction began. By the 1990s, the 4-degree lean had increased to as much as 5.5 degrees, causing concern for the Italian government about the potential collapse of this historic structure. Following the sudden collapse of another tower in the town of Pavia in 1989, the Tower of Pisa was closed to the public and efforts were made to stabilize it. The stabilization involved removing the bells from the top of the tower to reduce its weight and the installation of cables and lead counterweights to decrease the tilt. By the beginning of the 21st century, the Leaning Tower of Pisa's tilt had been reduced to just under 4 degrees. Today, it stands as one of Italy's most visited landmarks, all thanks to a construction mistake made over 800 years ago that gave it its distinctive lean. Sometimes errors can unexpectedly lead to positive outcomes. And finally, let's move on to number 1, the Sampoong department store. In the late 1980s, Seoul, South Korea witnessed a substantial construction and development boom, with millions of dollars poured into the city, especially since it was set to host the 1988 Summer Olympics. Consequently, most of the buildings constructed and sold during this period were rushed projects completed by construction companies seeking speed above all else. One such building created during this boom was the Sampung department store, a 9-story shopping mall. The initial plan was to construct an apartment building, but this was swiftly abandoned by Lee Jun, the future chairman of the Sampung Group's construction division. To accommodate the change, several critical support columns were removed from the blueprints to make way for escalators and an additional floor. The construction company originally assigned to the project raised concerns about this alteration, but instead of heeding their warnings, Lee Jun terminated their contract and replaced them with his own company. The department store was completed rapidly just 2 years later and quickly became a thriving establishment, attracting an estimated 40,000 visitors daily, making it one of the most successful commercial ventures in the area at the time. By 1995, cracks began to emerge on the building's top floor. However, Lee Jun merely instructed his staff to relocate stores and merchandise to the basement and did not take the earliest signs of danger seriously. On the morning of June 29, 1995, the cracks had grown significantly, to the point where management had to close the entire 5th floor to the public. Later in the day, engineers were dispatched to assess the issue, and they concluded that the entire structure was at risk of a catastrophic collapse. An emergency board meeting was convened, and the store's directors even recommended evacuating all staff and customers. However, despite these warnings, Lee Jun refused to evacuate the building, fearing potential revenue loss for the day. Shortly after the meeting, it was reported that Lee Jun himself left the building before the incident occurred. At precisely 5:52 p.m., unfortunately, it was too late. Within seconds, the store's roof collapsed, crashing down onto the lower floors. All the support columns in the entire south wing soon gave way, trapping over 1,500 people in the ensuing debris. The aftermath of the incident claimed the lives of 502 people, marking the largest peacetime disaster in South Korean history. Following the collapse, Lee Jun, his son, and other key individuals in his company were found guilty of negligence and were sentenced to more than 10 years in prison. The event triggered a comprehensive review of the country's construction safety laws and regulations, revealing deeply ingrained corruption. High-ranking city officials were exposed for accepting bribes from Lee Jun during the store's construction, and they too received 10-year prison sentences. Today, in a contentious decision by the Seoul local government, the site of the Sampung department store has been sold to a private developer, and a luxury apartment complex now occupies the tragic site. A memorial was subsequently erected in another location to commemorate the incident. If you found this information interesting, please consider subscribing to our channel for more content. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.